So welcome to this complete guide to emotional release. I'm actually really excited to get this started, and I'm excited because this work has literally changed my life. And I thought, why not put everything out that I know in a 30-part YouTube series that is completely free? And, I want to approach this from a special angle because I'm a perfectionist. And as I'm talking to you right now, I can already feel that parts of me try to control, and I have a part of me saying, oh, you're inauthentic, you should talk better, you should explain better, you should follow the rules more, or let go of the rules, or whatever. But the truth is, I'm here to be present because that's ultimately what the work is about. I could stand here and pretend that I'm not stressed. I could stand here and pretend that this is completely easy for me, that I'm an expert. I mean, I kind of am an expert, but it's the first time that I'm doing this. It's the sense of novelty that I want to show up with in this video. And through my presence in that video, I want to explain to you, or maybe slightly open the door to the world of emotional release to you. Because what I just touched upon is one of the core themes of emotional release. It's about allowance. It's about acceptance. When you hear the word or the wording emotional release, it feels like you have to let go of something. You have to get rid of something. You have to lose some baggage and say goodbye to parts of you. And the opposite is the case. Emotional release means getting closer to the emotions rather than getting rid of them. What we are releasing is not the emotion in a sense of we're getting rid of the emotion from our body, in a sense of I can't stand this emotion, I just want it to be gone. We are releasing the resistance we have towards the emotion. And how do you know the resistance is released? It's when the emotion feels accepted and can flow freely through your body. For example, as I'm standing here, I have a part of me saying, what should I say next? I don't have a script. I've been doing this work for multiple years now. I sort of know what I'm talking about, but still a part is coming in because this is a new thing to me and says, Tim, what you're doing is not good. You should do different. And even now, getting in contact with that part, he says, this is kind of awkward what you're doing. And I could be here and say, oh, I've got to release that part. I've got to let go of this tension that this part is creating. That is bad. I don't want to be stressed recording a video. The thing is, if me being present means that I experience stress or that part in that moment, then I'm willing to bring that to the forefront. Into the camera, into the connection with you who's watching right now. Because again, it's all about allowance. And if I have resistance towards a part that is resisting what I'm doing right now, then I have an internal conflict. And I can solve that eternal conflict through just accepting that this part is there. And not only that, through moving with the part, through letting that part be an aspect of the creation of this video, literally. And that is what this work is about. We're not trying to get rid of the emotion, not rid of the thoughts. We're not trying to meditate away. We're trying to get closer to the emotion and learn to dance with it, learn to listen, learn to integrate it into our life. And the more I do the work, the more I realize that it's all about the resistance we have towards what is here. This is also fundamentally what dissociation is, right? When we talk about trauma, it means there's a resistance and I have to escape my body because I cannot stand a certain situation or a certain feeling in my body. Something is restaging that is deeply uncomfortable for me. So what if I can find acceptance in that? What if that emotion is knocking on my door? What if a situation is prompting to give rise to an emotion? And instead of me saying, oh no, I don't want that, I'm taking a breather and I'm opening that door. I'm letting the emotion in. Sit down at the table with it and say, let's have a conversation. What am I releasing at that moment? I'm releasing the pressure that it takes to keep that door closed. Because some emotions, especially when they're coming from, like when the repression is stemming like back into childhood, when anger is knocking at the door, maybe an anger that we didn't feel in decades. Imagine how much energy it costs to keep that door shut. To keep that door shut against the pressure of the rage that wants to come through. And this tension here, is stress. This tension here is what creates chronic pain, is what creates chronic overthinking, is what creates ultimately a life that is dissociated and not present, because we cannot live the full spectrum of our emotions. Emotional release doesn't mean I'm releasing the emotions and then I'm happy forever. No, it means making the spectrum of my experience bigger. It means allowing more feeling, more sensation, more life into my system. Reducing the friction between what is there and me and my experience. So it's all about creating what we call congruency between me and my experience. If I'm angry, then I'm angry. I allow myself to be angry. I allow, or maybe even more specifically put, I allow myself to be with anger. I'm seeing anger as a visitor in my experience, and I'm allowing myself to be with it. I'm allowing anger to step into my system. And then you might think, is emotional release all about when I'm angry, I'm screaming, or when I'm sad, I'm crying? Could be. Maybe you've been scrolling through Instagram lately and you've seen people screaming and cathartically releasing in grandiose ways. It doesn't need to look like that. Why? Because emotions are autonomous in some sense. When I say an emotion is knocking on your doors and it's visiting you, then I literally mean that. Something else is arising within you that you have no control over. Something is knocking on your door like a visitor, and all you have to do is open the door once again, release the resistance, let it come in, and then something really, really important needs to happen. You need to get to know how the emotion wants to express itself. Like, let's say this emotion is a part that you've suppressed for years, maybe anger. Maybe the anger doesn't want to express itself through screaming. Maybe the anger is telling you, hey, I'm actually pissed that you've been in this relationship that you don't want to be in for 10 plus years now. I'm pissed that you're still trying to forgive this one person that maybe doesn't even deserve your forgiveness. I'm pissed that you still live in this place that you absolutely despise. Maybe that's the message. And then it's not about cathartically releasing, maybe. Then it's about getting into action. Maybe your sadness is a cry that you haven't cried for decades. But maybe your sadness is also expressing as loneliness, expressing as a feeling of, I want to feel connected. Why don't I have friends? I want friends. It's about getting in touch with the emotion. Again, decreasing the distance we have towards the emotion and getting closer to the emotion simultaneously, and then we can meet it. And we don't want to merge it like my hands now do. We want to just get the right distance so we can observe it, so we can look at it, look at all the shades and the colors, look at what it has to say in our body somatically, and also in our mind through parts work. This is all of these things I'm going to explain in great detail in this complete guide to emotional release. But I think at first I want to address this very, very important factor when it comes to emotional release work. It's not about getting rid of the emotion. It's not about releasing the emotion in that sense. It's about releasing the cage of resistance that keeps the emotion trapped. And then releasing that cage, letting that bird fly or whatever part is emerging, letting it out, letting it in, and then talking to it. Even the language of, I have to let go of an emotion. This whole talk about letting go. what is this? How can I let go of something that is built in? How can I let go of my anger? My anger will always be with me, and it will be a visitor when it needs to visit me. My anger is showing me maybe something that is deeply, deeply important. Maybe something that I overlooked for all of these times. So the resistance that I talked about, this pressure against the door, is showing in our bodies, and it shows itself as chronic tension. For example, I was dealing, and I'm still dealing from time to time, with chronic back pain. Many of my clients are dealing with fatigue, are dealing with rumination. They can't sleep at night. They feel depressed and low in energy. All of these can be signs that you are putting pressure on that door that I just talked about. Because you can imagine your emotion like a river, like a flow, or almost like a pipe. You can imagine a pipe where water is flowing through. And sometimes this pipe gets clogged and the water cannot flow. So what are you releasing then? You're not releasing the water. You're releasing the thing that is keeping the water from flowing. And what are these things? That's usually trauma and tension in the body. Beliefs that we learn from our parents, caretakers, in school or in childhood. Traumatic situations where we had to suppress certain emotions. We had to create that clog because it was safer. Maybe in childhood you were angry as a child, rightfully so, but you had to clog that pipe of anger in order to stay connected to your caretakers or parents or friends for that matter. Whatever. You get the idea. So that blocking of the flow is the tension. Again, it's the same metaphor. Something wants to flow, something wants to visit you, and you're blocking that flow from happening. Something in you is blocking that flow from happening. And we want to get to know why that is. So tension in the body is that blockage that I just talked about. Ruminating thought is that blockage that I just talked about. So what happens when we let go of the blockage? And I will tell you in this guide how to exactly do that. The energy, the water can flow again. I'm doing this movement because usually emotions travel through the body. When they are released, they give us a feeling of being whole again. Maybe parts of you that you've been chronically numbing unconsciously, you all of a sudden feel again because literally maybe blood is flowing back into these parts. The fascia can relax. Your body can relax because you finally feel safe again. Because it was finally safe enough to remove the clogs that were life-preserving in some way, shape, or form, in some moment of your life. That is emotional release. It's not about letting go of something. It's not about releasing something, because your emotions are not broken. They're not here to be released. They're here to be welcomed. All of them. Even when you're angry at yourself, even if you have like an inner critic, an inner perfectionist, the solution is not to block that perfectionist or inner critic off. It's not about letting go of the inner critic. It's about letting it in. It's about sitting down with him, creating the ability to be with it, so you can live an embodied life in safety. So I hope this video was helpful for you. It's the first one in this series. Leave me a subscribe, comment if there's any resonance within you, if you want to share something that the video brought up in you maybe. I'm here to discuss, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.